Stephen, François Hollande will be meeting some French entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley later. We've got a focus coming up on that. But there are some business people who have made it big here in France, quite surprisingly.
Yeah, surprising for some. Many of those who've left say that France is just simply too difficult to succeed in, and that's why they chose to go abroad. They complain of high taxes and sometimes excessive red tape for businesses here. But there are some entrepreneurs, of course, who've made it big here in France, among them the billionaire Xavier Niel, who founded the telecoms firm Free. He says new companies can grow here, but they do need some changes from the government, as Delano de Souza explains.
Free, a name that's shaken up the French telecoms market, a company that provides at-home internet services. In 2012, they launched mobile phone operations and have since attracted 10% of French customers. Xavier Niel, the company's founder, has become a billionaire in the French digital industry. He believes entrepreneurial success in France is possible.
Silicon Valley is lucky because it regroups talented people, so it is successful. For companies to set up in France, we need to have pro-competitive and pro-innovation policies. But if we have a state that is pro-competition and doesn't limit people, we will have success.
Free signature innovation, the Freebox, a single unit that integrates television, telephone and broadband services. It's helped the company to attract graduates from France's top engineering schools.
The flat hierarchy allows my ideas to get across quicker.
Despite criticism of high taxes in France, Niel says French entrepreneurs have certain advantages over their US counterparts.
In Silicon Valley, if you created a company 10 years ago, you pay 28% in taxes. In France, we pay less than 25%.
Xavier Niel is also known as an angel investor. So far, he's helped provide initial funding to over 800 tech startups globally.
To the United States next, and another standoff over the debt ceiling looks set to be avoided.
Yeah, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives has passed a measure to increase America's borrowing limit. In particularly unusual move, the deal was done without any strings attached. Now, the measure passed by 221 to 201 votes, now goes to the Senate for approval. This will avoid another fiscal crunch time, really, for America. This after the Treasury Secretary, Jack Lew, had warned that the country risked running out of cash by the end of this month if it didn't increase that borrowing limit.
All right, let's stay in the US and let's talk about the woman who can move markets.
Yeah, this is Janet Yellen, the new chair of the Federal Reserve. She was speaking to a congressional committee on Tuesday and signalled that she would continue in the previous policies of the Federal Reserve. Central bank stimulus, and particularly that coming from the Fed, had helped US and Asian markets to record levels last year, but fears over that money tap being turned off has caused jitters in recent months, particularly in emerging markets. But Janet Yellen shrugged off those concerns in her testimony to Congress. Let's take a listen.
My colleagues on the FOMC and I anticipate that economic activity and employment will expand at a moderate pace this year and next. The unemployment rate will continue to decline toward its longer-run sustainable level, and inflation will move back toward 2% over coming years.
Now, the markets were particularly pleased with that news from Janet Yellen. It kept investors in Asia happy too. Wall Street had continued to rise steadily during her speech, and as you can see, a positive trend across the Asian markets as well. Over in China, new figures show that exports grew at a rate faster than expected in January, up 10.6%. Imports were up 10% too, but it has prompted some questions over the figures behind that overall data. Economists questioning how reliable that information is. The market's reasonably pleased. Nonetheless, you can see the Hang Seng in Hong Kong and the Shanghai Composite in the green.
All right, Stephen, take us through some of the day's company stories next.
Yeah, we're going to start with Toyota, which is recalling almost 2 million Prius cars around the world. The Japanese car maker says it's because of a software fault that could cause the vehicles to slow down suddenly. The company says it's aware of 400 cases of the problem, mostly in Japan, but that it had caused no accidents to date. And the French bank Société Générale earned €2.14 billion in net profit last year, according to results just released. That's less than had been expected, though. It comes after the bank had to pay €450 million in fines over the investigation into the manipulation of the interbank lending rate LIBOR.
And this is a story we've talked about earlier this week because during the weekend, mobile gamers all over the world were disappointed because their favourite game was pulled off from sale. Now we know why.
Yeah, we found out. This is to do with Flappy Bird, which is a smartphone game which sees users guiding a little bird around a series of obstacles. It was a download hit. Actually went to #1 in the App Store at one point, partly because it was so difficult, though. There were some users complaining that it had ruined their lives. Now, on Saturday, the creator had announced he was pulling it from sale without explaining why, but in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, the Vietnamese 29-year-old Dong Nguyen has finally given some explanation. He said that he wasn't expecting it to be such a massive hit. It was only meant to be played for a few minutes at a time, and people became too obsessed with it. He said it was too addictive, and that was the main negative and why he chose to take it down in the end. So, too popular. Flappy Bird killed itself.
Oh dear. All right, thank you so much, Stephen Carroll. That was all the latest